tourism is collapsing in the United States, and with it, so are the cities dependent on tourism. But it all started quietly. Not with protests in the streets, not with headlines screaming, "Tourism collapse," but with something far more unsettling. It was silence. The kind of silence you notice when you walk into a place that should be full of life. Hotel lobbies where the echo of your footsteps feels too loud. Casinos with dealers standing idle, shuffling cards for no one. Famous city streets where souvenir stalls stand untouched, their neon open signs glowing over empty sidewalks. At first, the numbers trickled in like whispers. 15% fewer Miami searches on Google, 32% fewer foreign visitors to Tucson, and a 42% drop in French Quarter Festival revenue. Then the whispers turned into a roar inside boardrooms, city halls, and congressional hearings. The problem had a name, but not everyone dared to say it aloud. The $250 visa integrity fee. On paper, it sounded small. To a government that counts in trillions, $250 was pocket change. But to millions of travelers, especially those from countries without visa waivers, it was a deal-breaker. In a global tourism market where destinations compete for visitor dollars, America had just priced itself out of its own show. And what happened next wasn't gradual. It was a sudden, cascading collapse. City after city, watching its lifeblood evaporate in real time. And now the question hanging over the entire $1.9 trillion U.S. tourism industry is not if it recovers, but whether it can at all. So, what really happened and how are the U.S. cities crumbling? In this video, let's find out. It began as a barely noticed clause buried deep in the hundreds of pages of the Trump administration's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The so-called visa integrity fee. $250 slapped onto the cost of entry for any foreign traveler from a non-visa waiver country was marketed as a simple common-sense measure. Officials said it was about security, compliance, and fairness. A modest cost, they claimed, to ensure visitors respected the terms of their visas. But when the fee took effect on July 4, 2025, it detonated like a charge placed under the foundation of America's $1.9 trillion tourism economy. Instead of enhancing order, it sparked an unprecedented wave of cancellations, empty hotel rooms, and vanishing crowds in cities that have long relied on international visitors to survive. On paper, the rule seemed manageable. It applied to tourists, business travelers, students, anyone from outside the visa waiver program, and was to be paid on top of existing visa application fees, Form I-94 charges, and other travel costs. Even H-1B workers and foreign students, already paying hundreds of dollars in paperwork fees, were now saddled with this extra expense. In theory, visitors could reclaim the money after their visa expired, but only if they met every condition and avoided overstays by more than 5 days. For most, this reimbursement promise felt hollow. It turned the fee into what many saw as a non-refundable entry tax. And in a world where travelers can choose from hundreds of competitive destinations, perception matters more than technicalities. The perception was simple. America just got more expensive and more unwelcoming. And within weeks, tourists began voting with their passports by staying away. The scale of the backlash became clear before summer's halfway point. The World Travel and Tourism Council projected the United States would lose $12.5 billion in international visitor spending in 2025 alone. Oxford Economics went further, warning that America would be the only major economy in the world to suffer such a steep tourism decline this year. The consequences weren't abstract. They were visible on every street where tourism once thrived. Waiters staring at empty tables, tour guides with no groups to lead, street musicians playing to no audience. Restaurants cut hours, hotels froze hiring, and local festivals saw funding evaporate. Canadian tourism, a crucial lifeline for many border states, took one of the hardest hits. Arrivals from Canada fell by over 30% year-over-year, with some U.S. travel membership programs reporting Canadian participation slashed in half. For destinations like New York, Florida, and the Pacific Northwest, this wasn't just a seasonal slump. It was the sudden loss of a dependable neighborly market. And while border towns felt the chill first, the freeze was moving inland fast. Now let's have a look at the American cities that took the direct hit. Number 1. Tucson, Arizona. Few cities illustrated the collapse as sharply as Tucson. For years, the city had been carving out its identity as a desert jewel, an eco-tourism hotspot with boutique resorts, cultural festivals, and unique desert landscapes. International guests were a key part of its steady rise. That growth story collapsed almost overnight. According to Visit Tucson, foreign arrivals fell by 32% since the fee's implementation. Nearly 40% of local tourism businesses have either laid off staff or closed entirely. Tour buses sit idle in parking lots. University exchange programs have dried up. The once bustling downtown hotel district now carries the hollow ring of closed until further notice signs. The cruelest irony is that Tucson had just completed expansions at its airport to handle anticipated growth. Instead, those gleaming gates now stand as a reminder of a momentum cut short. And as Tucson's experience shows, the fee's damage isn't slow or subtle. It strikes directly at the financial arteries of cities, dependent on steady, diverse visitor flows. Number 2. Spokane, Washington. If Tucson's story is about losing customers, Spokane's is about losing the workers who make tourism possible. The decline in international visitors was compounded by a collapse in J-1 cultural exchange visas, which fell by 7,000 in May 2025 compared to the year before, a 13% drop. For Spokane's resorts and seasonal attractions, this was catastrophic. More than 60% of hotels and resorts struggled to fill housekeeping, kitchen, and front desk roles. Managers were left scrubbing bathrooms and checking in guests themselves. Festivals shrank or were canceled outright. Airbnb hosts were forced to reject bookings because they couldn't find cleaners. A policy sold as a minor administrative tweak had gutted the labor pool that kept the industry alive. Without enough workers, even the tourists who still came found a stripped-down version of the experience they expected. That kind of disappointment travels quickly in online reviews, making future recovery even harder. Number 3. New Orleans. No American city depends on tourism's cultural heartbeat quite like New Orleans. But the French Quarter Festival, one of its crown jewels, saw revenues plummet 42% this year. International attendance collapsed by 35%. Hundreds of musicians, street performers, and local vendors, people whose livelihoods are tied to festival season, lost their income in one blow. Bourbon Street bus tours stopped entirely. Restaurants that normally stayed open late into the night shut their doors hours early. City leaders scrambled, even inviting Canadian media to try to change perceptions, but the numbers were already locked in. New Orleans without the music, food, and constant motion of its festival culture is not the same city, and visitors know it. Number 4. Kansas City. While New Orleans' collapse was rooted in cultural loss, Kansas City's crisis was a geopolitical own goal. Set to host matches for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the city had prepared for a surge of visitors from across the globe, especially from South America and Africa. Instead, group tours from Argentina, Ghana, and Nigeria have collapsed by 47%, vaporizing a projected $220 million in tourism revenue before the games even begin. Hotels had upgraded, transit systems extended operating hours, and merchants stocked up in anticipation of record crowds. Now, much of that preparation risks becoming evidence of miscalculated policy. The fee that was supposed to protect American borders is now actively undermining one of its most high-profile global events. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, and current affairs impacting your lives. Number 5. New York City. No city symbolizes America's global brand quite like New York, which is why its losses sting more than most. In 2025, NYC is expected to welcome 2 million fewer international visitors, a drop projected to cost the city $4 billion in spending. But the financial pain runs deeper than direct tourist dollars. With fewer bookings, the city has slashed its international marketing budget. That means less visibility overseas, which means fewer future bookings, a vicious cycle. Luxury brands on Fifth Avenue, neighborhood diners in Queens, Broadway theaters, and Chinatown eateries are all feeling the same squeeze. Prestige, once lost, is hard to win back. For New York, the danger is that this isn't a temporary dip, but the start of a long-term decline in its status as the world's crossroads. Number 6. Orlando. In Orlando, the issue isn't just fewer visitors but an outright collapse of the seasonal labor force. Theme parks, the city's economic engine, are operating without half their usual J-1 student workforce. That shortage has forced the cancellation of entire shows, extended ride wait times to exhausting lengths, and shuttered dinner theaters earlier than planned. Guests are leaving frustrated, flooding review sites with complaints, and spreading the message that Orlando isn't worth it right now. In tourism, reputation is currency, and Orlando is spending it fast. Number 7. Chicago. Chicago's river architecture tours are more than just sightseeing trips. They are a signature experience that has, for decades, drawn in architecture students, history enthusiasts, and casual tourists from all over the world. These tours are the kind of high-value attraction that ripples outward economically. Visitors who book them often stay longer, spend more on hotels and restaurants, and explore other parts of the city. Now, those boats are leaving the docks half full. International visitors, who made up a significant share of ticket buyers, are simply not arriving in the numbers they once did. The $250 visa integrity fee has tipped the scales for many potential travelers, especially those from middle-income countries where the extra cost can be the difference between choosing Chicago or skipping the U.S. entirely. The effects are visible beyond the water. Hotels that once operated at near full capacity during peak seasons have begun cutting staff hours, reducing amenities, and closing certain floors entirely. Cultural exchange programs, which brought in students and young professionals who also contributed to the local economy, are being canceled. The city, which welcomed 55 million visitors last year, is facing a reality where that number may never return to pre-fee levels if current trends continue. Chicago's danger lies in the quietness of its decline. Unlike cities that rely heavily on seasonal spikes, Chicago's tourism revenue is a year-round machine. But if international travelers stop considering Chicago altogether, the city risks fading from global travel itineraries. Once a destination loses that must-visit status in the global consciousness, the climb back is long and steep, and often requires years of aggressive marketing and incentives to reverse. Number 8. Miami. Miami has long been a textbook example of a city that sells not just a location, but a lifestyle. Its brand is synonymous with glamour, nightlife, Latin American cultural fusion, and year-round sunshine. That branding has been so strong that the city was often considered recession-resistant in tourism terms. No matter what the global economy was doing, people wanted Miami. Yet now, the cracks are showing. Online search interest for Miami as a destination has fallen 15% year over year, a troubling signal in a sector where trip planning often starts months in advance with those very searches. Industry reports show service revenues down between 20% and 35%, an extraordinary slump for what should be one of Miami's most profitable periods. Hotels and resorts, faced with fewer international bookings, have begun cutting back on international staff. The multilingual concierges, specialty chefs, and experienced hospitality workers who help maintain Miami's global appeal. The city that hosted 6.4 million foreign visitors in 2024, generating around $7 billion in spending, is now seeing prime beachfront properties with empty lounge chairs and unused cabanas during what should be their busiest weeks. The sun still shines. The sand is still warm. But without the people, and more importantly, without their spending, the Miami tourism machine is running on half power. And unlike some destinations, Miami's reputation depends on buzz. An image of half-empty clubs and quieter beaches, if it spreads, can be devastating for a brand built on the promise of excitement and energy. Number 9. Los Angeles. Los Angeles' economy is uniquely intertwined with its identity as the entertainment capital of the world. Visitors don't just come for the weather or the coastline. They come for the idea of Hollywood, for the chance to step onto a studio lot, attend a film festival, or spot a celebrity. But in the months since the visa integrity fee took effect, studio tour bookings have fallen 37%. International festival attendance, a vital showcase for LA's film industry, has dropped by over 40%. The slowdown is not confined to tourism. Foreign film crews, international students in film schools, and visiting creatives who would normally spend months or years in the city are now arriving in far fewer numbers. This has a compounding effect. The entertainment sector relies on constant cultural exchange to maintain its global influence. When fewer international artists, technicians, and students come to LA, the pipeline of global talent feeding into the industry weakens. Local businesses, from set designers to costume rental shops to independent coffee houses near production studios, feel the pinch. Without those fresh waves of global visitors, Los Angeles' entertainment glow risks dimming. The city could remain a domestic tourism hub, but its unique position as a global cultural capital is under threat. And that's a status that, once lost, is far harder to regain than simple tourist numbers. Number 10. San Francisco. San Francisco has always been defined by its global connections. Its role as a Pacific gateway has made it a hub for cultural exchange, innovation, and trade. A huge part of that identity comes from its universities, tech firms, and immigrant communities, all of which thrive on a steady influx of international students, workers, and tourists. But the city is now feeling the strain of a nearly 20% drop in F1 and J1 visa holders. Universities have reported sharp enrollment declines in tech, design, and engineering programs, fields where San Francisco has historically been a global leader. With fewer students come fewer visiting families, fewer academic conferences, and fewer partnerships with foreign institutions. The impact on Chinatown is particularly symbolic. Long one of the most visited and photographed neighborhoods in the city, it has seen around 30% of its shops and eateries close since winter. These closures are not just economic setbacks. They erode a living piece of San Francisco's cultural identity. For a city whose brand is built on being open, cosmopolitan, and connected, these developments chip away at its very essence. Fewer international arrivals mean less cultural vibrancy, and as that vibrancy fades, so too does the incentive for future travelers to choose San Francisco over other Pacific Rim cities. You see, from Chicago's half-empty tour boats to Miami's quiet beaches, from Los Angeles' subdued film festivals to San Francisco's shuttered Chinatown storefronts, the story is the same. A single federal policy change, the $250 visa integrity fee, has sent shockwaves through an interconnected tourism network. The measure was marketed as a minor administrative adjustment, a simple way to ensure visa compliance. In reality, it has acted as a powerful deterrent, redirecting millions of travelers to other countries that actively court their business. Tell us, would you pay $250 just for the right to enter the U.S.? Or have you already changed travel plans because of new visa rules? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on which American city you think will be hit the hardest if this continues. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, changing world order, and current affairs, things you need to stay informed. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.